Welcome to another episode of Treasure Reef, and I do get asked a lot about my water parameters and what do I do not only about keeping it at level but also about my testing regimen. So today I was thinking of doing something a little bit different. I will first of all talk about the parameters that I try to keep my tank at, and also I'll talk a little bit about the different equipment that I use for testing, and you will see me actually do the full test. And my goal is to try and test everything in about 10 minutes. So I try to not spend more than that on testing, and most of the time I only test once a week. I do an exhaustive test and I try to do it under 10 minutes. So hopefully today you will get to see it. You'll see my water parameters, and maybe we will learn something from that. So first and foremost, the most important things for me are temperature, which I usually set and forget. I have my Apex that monitors my temperature, and it's usually around 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Other than that, salinity is something that I check fairly regularly because I do have an automated water change system on this aquarium. This is now done through Ecotech, the newly released Versa. So absolutely love that product, and I'll talk a lot about it a little bit more in one of the next videos because there is quite a few things I want to say about it. But because water change has a potential of shifting the salinity, this is something that I have to check very regularly. And for this, I actually use this digital refractometer by Hanna. So we'll use that today. The next thing that I also use by Hanna is the alkalinity check. So alkalinity I try to check at least twice a week. Ideally, I'd be doing it every other day. I know there is now alkalinity checkers that can automate it. I'd get one, but I have no place to put the actual unit in here. So I'm really happy with the newly released alkalinity checker by Hanna that measures in DKH. So before that it was ppm, and I had to write a converter, automatic converter in my in Aquatic Log to basically convert automatically. I'd put in 151 and then it would come out with 8.9 or whatever it is. So now I can actually see what my alkalinity is by just testing it. So we'll do that. And the only other two things that I'm going to test today are the phosphate, also Hanna. So I believe in knowing this number. And then Red Sea nitrate is one that takes the longest. So the way we'll do it is we'll start this nitrate, then because it takes about 9 minutes. Then within this time I'll do the Hanna. I will then do alkalinity. So Hanna takes over 3 minutes. Then alkalinity is the faster, and then the fastest is the Hanna refractometer. So basically, ideally, we'll do all four at once. And once in a while, I do check for iodine and magnesium, but these I find don't seem to shift as much. A few other little things, I do dose nitrates. So basically, looking at what my nitrates are at, I will then adjust my doser to either add more nitrate, because I always want it to be around 5 to 10 or less. And you will also be able to go to aquaticlog.com and look up Treasure Reef, and you will actually see the results of today's session. And you can also see what my parameters were last week and a few days before. So Don't just take my word for it. You'll actually be able to see my full husbandry of my reef. And finally, my phosphates have been actually very high, so I'm slowly trying to bring it down, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later. So first and foremost, I take a vial like this. I'm usually gonna clean it and then add a good chunk of water from the tank, so I don't actually need to move around when I'm doing all of this. So I'm gonna pause the video and get the water going, and then you'll actually be able to witness what's going on here. So let's get going. So one of the most important tools for my measurement to aid me in that is Aquatic Log. So this is the application that I use on a regular basis, and I've actually made a pretty cool change to the application that I will show you in a second, where basically I can go to my aquarium. So I've got two aquariums. This one is called Treasure Reef, by the way, very nice photo. So Treasure Reef, and then I can go to parameters. I'm gonna add plus, and you can see the parameters that I'm gonna measure today. So you've got alkalinity, and you can actually see how many days ago did I measure it last. So alkalinity, I measured it at 6 days ago, and it was 8.9. Salinity, phosphate, and nitrate. So those are four that I'm going to be measuring today. And the nice thing about this screen is that if you are on it, it should not log out. So basically your application, your phone should not stop. So we'll have this thing on, and I've actually integrated a timer into this whole thing. So I'm going to now put it aside, and we'll start with getting some water, getting things a little bit organized. I got my syringes, I've got the scissors for phosphate, and we'll start with nitrate because nitrate is the one that takes the longest. So from that point on, we can start counting. So I'll turn on the timer shortly, but basically let's get going. So we've got 3 of the reagents. We've got 2 vials. I never use the second vial, so I only use 1 vial. And I'm going to take 16 milliliters. So I do 10, and then I take another 6. So this gives me 16 milliliters of salt water. Put the syringe aside, and then I will take the first reagent, 5 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the Red Sea has this very handy cheat sheet, so I can see that 5 drops, it's step number 3, and it takes about 15 seconds. So I'll do this for roughly another 5 seconds, and then I'm gonna take reagent B. So this one does take a fair bit of time, but it's pretty easy to do. And I find that it's actually almost always very accurate. So take 1 spoon of the reagent, dump it in here, and then I will close the lid and start going with this one. So this one does take about a minute. So this is probably the longest one. So we'll get going. I usually check how well this thing dissolves, so you can see it's still not very clear yet. So I'll just wait, get a little bit more. I actually should have turned on the timer, so why don't I do this right now? So nitrate, turn it on, and start looking at what's going on. So I think prior to that it was about 45 seconds. So another 15 seconds. I'm at the 1 minute mark. Take the reagent C. And reagent C is pretty easy. Just throw this one in. You can see already that it colored things purple. So this one you're supposed to do for 15 seconds. And the really cool thing, the cool feature of Aquatic Log is that you can now reuse that timer. So I'm gonna click on the nitrate, I'm gonna pause it, the timer, and then I'm gonna long press. It resets to 0, 0. And then I'm gonna launch it again, and now we're counting 9 minutes for this reagent. So I'm gonna put it aside. Maybe I'll put it so that it's a little bit visible as to what's going on, but I can already tell how much nitrate is in this one. You're supposed to wait for 9 minutes, but when this thing is so pink, usually that means nitrates are fairly high. So now phosphate. So for phosphate, it's using these packets. I used to despise them, but now I actually have a whole process in place, so I'll show you what I do. So once again, I use the syringe. This time I don't even measure the 10 milliliters because this vials, the Hana vials, has their own marker. So I just take the syringe and then I press it right until I get to the edge with the marker. So that is my 10 milliliters. Again, you have to just be consistent. What I always do as well is I close it off. So we've got seawater in here, and I have a nice little piece of cloth, microfiber, that I clean the vial with. So basically right now it's clean. One last trick that I do is, well, actually I'll show you 2 more tricks. So first of all, I will pre-open Hana, because the moment we start checking phosphate, the counter starts counting, and you only have a couple of minutes or 3 minutes before it's going to turn off. So we're going to save the time by first taking these scissors and cutting right along the line that Hana had suggested. And then hopefully this thing is going to open up on us. So I do make this little triangle. And finally, now I'm ready to use this to add this reagent to the water. So I promised one more trick. So with phosphate and alkalinity, what I always do is I check. I'm always consistent about how I'm putting the vial. So the vial here has the 10 milliliter note or label. So I'm always going to have it facing me. So open up, so turn on phosphate. It says C1, so I'm going to take the vial. This is where I have to really be quick and efficient. So this thing is counting C2. So now remember, the vial, the phosphate checker may time out, so I have to be quick. So I've opened the vial, add the reagent, so you can see it adds in very cleanly. There's nothing else here. Close it off, and then I'm going to do this. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to turn on the phosphate counter so that I know that I have about 2 minutes until the phosphate checker is going to turn off. I think it's not a great design. I think they could have done better, and I've had my share of issues with phosphate measuring before. One other really interesting part is that when you will place this thing on and then press the button, you're actually going to screw up your test. So don't do that. You're supposed to do a long press on the button here so that you start another 3-minute counter on the phosphate. So I'm just gonna do this for a little bit more. So, and we are at 4-minute mark at the nitrate. So hopefully we're doing quite well. So let's see. Keep going. I'm watching out for any bubbles, anything else that may interfere with our test. So I've been doing this for over a minute now, and usually by that time it's very clear. So I'll do it just for a good measure for another 20-30 seconds. And then I'm gonna place it into the checker and then start it. So notice that I'm always always cleaning with a cloth the fiber, and I'm also trying to lean it into different parts of the vial so that there is no bubbles anywhere, because the bubbles will interfere with the measurements. So I'm at 1 minute and 45 seconds. That's pretty good. So again, label 10 is facing me now. Close it, and now I'm gonna hold the button. So that's very important. And now it's got the 3-minute counter going on this one. So I'm going to reset the counter on the phosphate. Start, so 3 minutes here, and we're almost done. So now it's up to us to do alkalinity. So first and foremost, I always add the reagent. So hopefully there should be enough reagent in here. If not, then I'm gonna have to pause the video and get some, but I usually check. No, there's more than enough here left. So I always use a cloth of some sort so that it doesn't stain, or bounty thing, so that it doesn't stain the wood underneath, because this is pretty caustic. Take a brand new vial, make sure there's another cap for this one. Take another 10 milliliters. So this gives me, you can see there's lots of things going on simultaneously, so multitasking, but I find that this is a very efficient way to spend 10 minutes and check everything that you need. So, and we can see nitrate at 630 right now, phosphate at 1 and 15 seconds, so 1 1/4, and I'm already checking alkalinity. So basically alkalinity, I've got the vial. It's nice and clean. Then I'm going to take the checker. So this one, it's very easy. So you turn it on, C1. We're almost done. So 10 milliliters. Press the button. Wait, C2. So we've got the C2. I'm going to open this one up. Take the reagent, add it very carefully into the vial, close it off. This one doesn't require that long of a moving, basically dissolving. So just a few more times, maybe another 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that I'm not shaking this thing. And then I'm gonna take this, place it back there, label still facing me, press the button, and this is gonna give me a result. So 9.1. So 9.1 is what I'm gonna add into alkalinity. 9.1. And then finally, while the rest of the parameters are doing something, so I'm gonna take the salinity refractometer, take some water. Right now it's zeroed, so I'm gonna add a drop, press the button, wait. It's gonna give me 37. So sometimes what I do is I'm gonna quickly wipe it off and do one more, maybe even just to check myself. So, and press read once again, and I'm at 37 again. So a little bit higher than I would hope, so I'm gonna have to make some adjustments about it. So, but I'm gonna add this here, 37. Phosphates, 0.33. So we're in an inception. So first we were going layer deep, and now we are going back in the inception movie. with all the parameters. So 37 salinity, alkalinity was 9.1. This timed out, so at 3 minutes, 0.33. So I'm gonna add this here, 0.33. And then finally nitrate, you know what, I usually just eyeball it from the top. I've got my charter, and this, I'm now pretty good at this, so I can see that it's roughly at 4. So it's not dark enough, so I'll give it a 5. And we are done. So I've done all the parameters. I'm gonna now press add, and you can see they're all there. Aquatic Log is gonna complain about salinity. It says salinity is too high, so yes, it is too high. I'm gonna have to lower it down a little bit. My nitrates are optimal. I want them at 5. My phosphate is at 0.33, so that's not good. I'm trying to bring it down. So far in the whole week I was not able to. And alkalinity 9.1, that's actually expected. I usually check my parameters in the evening, so by that time alkalinity would have dropped another couple of decimal points. But that's where we are right now. So this is it. So 10 minutes, give or take, and I was able to do everything that I need to know where my parameters are, and I have my action plan for the week. So I'm gonna lower salinity, I'm gonna keep watching my phosphates. I don't do anything in terms of bringing it down other than relying on corals and my feeding and dilution. And everything else I'm happy about. So maybe someday I'm gonna add measure magnesium. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, ask them below. And next video is gonna be pretty good. I'm gonna talk about my frags, so stay tuned. Thank you.